Welcome back, Auburn family. My name is Jake Lazarus, and let's dive into Strictly Auburn. I'm joined by Connor King and Eli Lingo, and we're on winter break right now, so we're doing this from home. Connor, Eli, how we doing?
Doing good.
Doing good. Excited to talk about some of the new news from Auburn football and a little bit from Auburn basketball as well. But it's happy to be with you guys again.
Yeah, let's dive straight into it. So, in the football world, Auburn and Hugh Freeze went out and hired a brand new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. On the offensive side of the ball, Hugh Freeze went out and hired Philip Montgomery, former head coach of Tulsa. He's been there for 8 seasons after he was fired on November 27th. He has offensive coordinator experience at both Baylor and Houston. Worth noting that he was the OC at Baylor at 2013 when RG3 won the Heisman. Eli, I'll start with you. What did you think about that hire?
I think it's a pretty good hire. A lot of people are looking at he just got fired, but that's just what happens nowadays. But I think his offense averaged over 400 yards every season besides one season at Tulsa. If you're looking at that, that's a really good sign. And then for quarterback development, if you have him and Hugh Freeze, who both know we can develop quarterbacks, I'm sure Robbie Ashford is just super excited that Hugh Freeze will bring in a guy like Philip Montgomery to be able to develop some quarterbacks. So I'm excited.
Connor, what did you think when you heard that news?
Similar to Eli, I think it's a great hire. I don't see really too much wrong with it, except the fact that he got fired this season. You know, Tulsa went 5-7. I don't imagine there's lots of recruits that want to go to play at Tulsa, Oklahoma anyway, so I understand why. But overall, this is a great hire. I think he's going to call some good plays this season as well. Probably a completely different offensive scheme than what we had this prior season, so I think it's a good hire.
Yeah, something very different. One of the things that I'm struggling to grasp is the recruiting aspect of it. We had a lot of Auburn fans who wanted to hire a head coach with SEC experience for the recruiting part of being a coach. Philip Montgomery has no SEC experience. He doesn't have any of the recruiting experience or the ties to the state of Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, or any of the SEC territory. So I think that's worth noting and something we should all look out for. On the defensive side of the ball, Hugh Freeze signed Ron Roberts to be the defensive coordinator. He has been the DC at Baylor for the past 3 years, won the Big 12 title in 2021, but his defense took a major step backwards in 2022, led to him being fired just a couple weeks ago. And Auburn was in a bidding war with Arkansas to land Roberts, and Auburn obviously ended up winning. So, Eli, I'll hop back to you. What did you think about this news of Roberts being our DC?
I think, first of all, a big reason why you saw his defense take such a step back is that Baylor's defense suffered a lot of injuries this past season, so that is one thing that could lead to him just taking a step back. But he had one of the best defenses in Big 12 in 2021, forced a lot of turnovers, had one of the best run defenses in Big 12 for what it's worth, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's an overall good hire. He has over 30 years of coaching experience. He has head coaching experience, so I think it's a really solid hire just overall for sure.
I think my only worry, you guys mentioned it with Montgomery, but Roberts was just fired as a DC, and I know he was looked at by Arkansas too, but I'm just concerned that with a likely really young defense losing a lot of our best players to the draft and other reasons, I'm just nervous of the product that's going to be put out on the field defensively after a really good year this year for the Auburn Tigers. Connor, what do you think?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Connor.
I'm not mad at this hire at all, and obviously, he was fired, and there's some problems with the team that he coached defense this year. But I think his experience is something to really note because 30-plus years of coaching experience is good in any form. I think that the same thing with Montgomery too, having two coordinators that are pretty experienced, that are older, and having a head coach that's very experienced as well, and then you have some other assistants on the team that are young, hungry recruiters. I think it'll be a good balance, and that's one of the reasons why I don't see too much of a problem in this hire, even though he was fired.
Yeah.
Eli, you were about to jump in.
Yeah, like Connor mentioned, we have one of the best recruiters, I would say, with Zach Etheridge. And he can recruit like crazy, and I think Cadillac as well. You know, those guys like Trevon Reed, another good recruiter. I mean, we just landed 2 recruits, so I wouldn't say you know, his coaching experiences I think is going to help him in the SEC, and I think the recruiting will be somebody else's job besides his. So I think we'll be all right.
We'll see. I mean, it'll all come with stats. If we land a bunch of
Yeah.
recruits, obviously our mentality will flip. If we don't, the other way around. So I got some questions for you guys about these 2 hires. One of them I thought was very interesting. I saw it going around on Auburn Twitter. But the likelihood of another quarterback coming in. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most confident, how confident are you guys in Robbie Ashford being Auburn's starting quarterback in 2023?
I would say for me, I would say about an 8 or a 9,
Whoa.
just because of him being the starter. Yes, but it just depends on who we bring in. I know one guy to note that just transferred out. It's Coastal Carolina Grayson McCall. I mean, he's a stud athlete, really good, dual threat, fits Hugh Freeze's plan. But I just think Robbie Ashford's athletic ability is really, really good. And you just brought in Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery, those 2 guys that have coached really good athletic quarterbacks and have turned them into, I mean, draft picks. And I mean, RG3, his athletic ability was, I mean, it was one of the best I've ever seen. And he didn't have an okay arm until, I mean, Philip Montgomery pretty much developed him into one of the best college quarterbacks of all time. So just saying that, I'm super confident, but I wouldn't mind. I mean, we need to bring in the transfer quarterback for sure, I think. But I think Robbie Ashford, I think he'll be the starter.
Connor?
I'm going to give it a 7. According to like our depth chart at Auburn right now, I think Robbie is without a doubt the starting quarterback, especially with Calzada leaving to the transfer portal. But the portal this year there's just so many kids. There's so many guys that want to play somewhere. Auburn is a huge landing spot, and especially with that Coastal Carolina quarterback and lots of other quarterbacks in the nation right now, they want to go play for a school that like Auburn, that's an SEC school that plays big teams every year, has big games. They're on national TV all the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have a few transfer quarterbacks from some Group of 5 schools or maybe even a Pac-12 or Big 12 school show interest in Auburn.
So for me personally, I think it's a 50-50 toss-up, so I got to be at like a 4 or a 5. After looking at what Brian Kelly did at LSU last year, I think that's the model that Auburn has to kind of watch. So last year, Brian Kelly went to LSU. As we all know, quarterback transfers out. He brought in Jaden Daniels, and now they have a shot to play in the SEC Championship against Georgia. They had a pretty bad year prior to that, so we kind of fit the LSU mold for that reason. It wouldn't shock me at all if Hugh Freeze went out and got one of the bazillion transfer quarterbacks who are out there in the portal and reworked him for his offense. Because we all know, we've watched Robbie Ashford more than a few times. We know that his arm talent just isn't there. I'm not sure that that's a developmental thing or if it's a talent thing, but we just don't know. With the transfer portal, there are proven guys who we do know have the arm talent, who we do know have the physicality, the mentality, and all the wit with them and the age. So I'm hopeful that this coaching staff will bring in someone from the outside to be the starting quarterback for next season.
Well, I just think, I mean, if you watched Robbie Ashford at the beginning of the season and you watched all of his games throughout the end, if you're talking about his arm, you know, he made really good throws in the beginning of the season, but progressively as he got down towards the end of the season, I think the more you saw him run the ball, the more he was tackled. I think you saw more injuries to his arm, and we cannot note the amount of physical pain that he was in. The amount of, I mean, he would run the ball 10 times a game. So I think the stress you would see on his arm has to be noted because, I mean, he listed like 4 or 5 injuries due to his throwing arm. That definitely has an impact on him throwing the ball. I think that's something you'd have to mention for sure.
I'd agree, but we could look at guys like Max Duggan who play through injury and who, instead of saying, I couldn't play because of this injury, you play through it.
Well, Robbie Ashford definitely played through it for sure.
Just not well.
I mean, I want to, I would like to see anybody play through. He had like a rotator cuff. I mean, we
I
don't have to
wouldn't.
get
That's why I
logistics
quit
of it.
baseball.
Yeah, I don't know if I can
Yeah,
do that
I
either.
wouldn't
so
either.
it's. I
I'm
mean,
just saying
you're
I'm
saying,
just saying there
yeah,
are guys in the transfer portal who are proven guys who are just as athletic with more arm talent and whatnot. So, and who are older with the experience. So just guys who fit the same mold as Robbie. There are guys who are better without a doubt.
yeah. I mean, we'll just have to see, I guess.
Yeah, we'll know with time. But that kind of bridges into my next question for y'all about these two hires. How do you guys feel, like, what do you feel will be the most different in 2023? Do you think it's going to be just the mentality of the players? Do you think it'll be the offense, the defense, the overall vibe, the student morale? Like, what do you think is going to be the most different in 23 compared to this past season?
I really think it's going to be the overall vibe. Obviously, there's going to be different offensive and defensive schemes with a completely new coaching staff, completely new coordinators, head coach. Although the coaches that we're bringing in here, besides Hugh Freeze, both of the coordinators are not these guys that are like super Southern, super Auburn man kind of guys, which I'm okay with because I think they're here just to coach football and win some games, which I love. I think that Harsin bought into the Auburn culture a lot in his own way. Even though he's from Idaho and he's not really a Southern football coach either. But I think with this new coaching staff and a lot of new players that come in, their demeanor is really just going to be win football games, and that's it. And I am more than okay with that because that's the one thing I wanted Auburn football to do this season, and they didn't do it that well. So
War Eagle that. Eli?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see everything change to the overall, vibe of the fan base, to the scheme, to, I mean, pretty much everything. I think, coming into, it was our freshman year when it was a sophomore year. There was a lot of
Sophomore year.
skepticism. Yeah. And there's just a lot of what ifs could happen. So I think a lot of people are going to be excited. A lot of people are going to be nervous. But I think Hugh Freeze is going to do a good job. I wouldn't look to the next year to be a 10-win, 11-win season, but hopefully we get at least 8 to 9 wins, and we just start that building process to lead us into, championship contentions, playoffs, and stuff like that. But overall, I'm pretty excited for Hugh Freeze and Montgomery and all the other guys. And another thing I want to note, or are we about to talk about recruiting and stuff like that? I think.
Probably not. I think we jumped into basketball.
Okay. Well, one thing I want to note real quick.
We flipped a couple guys. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So
you mentioned that earlier.
We landed Tyler Johnson, 6 or 7 foot tackle, Colton Hood, legacy guy, and then another guy I want to mention, Dante Thornton, transferred from Oregon, just took a visit to Auburn, 6'5", receiver. I mean, he is a dog. So I think you're starting to see Hugh Freeze take recruiting a lot more serious than the last staff. So that is just good news overall for the Auburn family, Auburn fan base. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree. I think the biggest change for me looking at 2023 season will be the offensive game plan. I think that's something that we've lacked fun in. I think I want to see those explosive plays. I want to see the ball in our best player's hands, which next year will 1,000% be Jarquez Hunter. I want to see him get a ton of carries, a ton of screen passes, just let him do his thing in open space. So I'm very excited for that. Let's jump into basketball, though. We haven't had that much basketball news since we've been home for break. We've only had one game because Auburn had off for finals week, which kicked my ass. I don't know about you guys. But Auburn took on Memphis this past Saturday. We lost our first game 82-73, and we fell all the way to 19 in this week's AP poll. Notes from the game, though, we shot just 38% from the field, 25% from 3. Memphis scored 50 points in the paint, which is nuts because defense is this team's specialty. And I was just kind of baffled watching this game because this was such a winnable game from start to finish, and it just felt like we were playing so out of control. What did you guys feel watching this game?
It was awful.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eli.
So, I mean, you mentioned our defense was it didn't look like they even prepared for this game. I mean, their guy Dante Wright or Dante Davis or somebody had 27 points. I mean, dropped 27 points on the head like it was nothing. And each time while I was watching the game, they would drive through the lane, and I felt like there wasn't any defensive contenders, trying to contend the basket at all. It was just easy layups. I mean, Memphis did shoot lights out that game. They shot like 50% from the field, so they played a really good game. But defensively, we just couldn't get it going. And I mean, same thing for the offense. We couldn't score inside, and we shot awful, like 25% from the three. So overall, just really crappy game to watch. Hopefully, we can rebound this week. But man, it was a tough game to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Connor, what'd you think?
I didn't think Auburn played good at all. I think this is easily their worst played game this season. And honestly, it sounds odd, but I'm okay with them losing right now. This is a really good time to lose. It's mid-December. You still have a few more games left of out-of-conference play, some more important games in USC and Washington. Now, it was pretty important for us to win this game, but I'm okay with losing to Memphis rather than Tennessee or Alabama later on in the stretch.
Team,
so, yeah, let's figure it out now. Let's figure out what's wrong. 50 points in the paint is outrageous, so hopefully we can get back to a block party, and I think we'll be okay. I don't think it's too bad of a loss. It was close. I think we'll bounce back against Georgia State and be just fine.
100%. I think it's worth noting there's only one more undefeated SEC team, and that is Mississippi State. In the most recent AP poll, just reading down the SEC names, we got Alabama ranked at number 4, Tennessee at 6, Arkansas at 10, Kentucky at 13, Mississippi State at 17, and we rounded out at 19.
Yeah, I think, man, this SEC is jam-packed with talent this year. It's going to be hard, but I think, like Connor said, man, if you take this loss and learn from your mistakes, which I know Bruce Pearl is good at doing, he's a good coach, and I think he'll get these guys right for sure. But this SEC is different this year.
And speaking of being built a little bit different, Bruce Pearl on the recruiting trail brought in his first guy in the class of 2024. And you want to talk about being built? This kid is huge. Peyton Marshall from Marietta, Georgia, 7 feet tall, 310 pounds as a senior in high school.
Yeah,
I mean, look at me. I wasn't built like that.
He needs to talk to Hugh Freeze, play a little bit of tackle or something, man. That's crazy. But he's a dog, bro. He's a dog.
The one thing I really like about scoring this recruit is 2 of his teammates. Actually, I think one's a teammate and one's a friend. They're both highly recruited players. One of them's in the ESPN 300. I'm not sure about the other one, but they both have potential to follow, and that would be great. That would be one of our best recruiting classes, I think, to start off that way. And overall, this dude is huge. He's going to be a force. If he cuts down a little bit, who knows? He might go 30 for 20 every game. We'll see.
I'm excited.
I mean, potential there is insane.
Yeah, just the sheer build. I'm excited to see what Bruce Pearl has in store for the rest of this season and the rest of the recruiting trail.
Yep.
Over this break in the next week, we'll be back next Tuesday. Auburn basketball will take on Georgia State on Wednesday at home at 7 p.m., and they will travel to the University of Southern California next Sunday, and that game will be at 4:30 Central Standard Time. That just about does it for us with Strictly Auburn for this week. We'll be back here next Tuesday, similar time to this one, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment if you enjoyed the content. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.